excellent work. Let's talk about our next system. So our next system is the Department of Children and Families, and the Department of Children and Families does a ton of things in the state of Florida. We're fortunate enough today to have somebody talking about mandated reporting, which I think is something that sometimes people are confused about. And so excited to welcome Lindsay McCrudden from Department of Children and Families to come here and share with us some information about mandated reporting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lindsay McCrudden. I'm the program administrator for DCF for St. Johns and Flagler counties. And I am assisting Christy Gillis today, who is our community, our CDA. So I'm going to go through the mandated reported training. So you can go to the next slide. So what this training covers is we will talk about legal and foundations of mandating reporting, recognizing child abuse and neglect, supporting families in needs and resources, as well as responding to suspicions of abuse or neglect, and then reporting those suspicions of abuse or neglect. So everybody on this call is a mandated reporter. And if you have any reasonable doubt or cause to suspect that a child is being abused, abandoned, or neglected by a parent, a legal custodian, a caregiver, or other person responsible for the child's welfare, it is your duty to call the Florida Abuse Hotline to report that information. So how to recognize child abuse and neglect. So there are indicators of it. You can keep going forward. So if you see a child with injuries that don't align with how the child is indicating they received those injuries, there is inconsistent statements on how they received it or a change of history in regards to those injuries. If a caregiver is delayed in seeking any medical attention, multiple injuries of a child on different stages of healing as well in different areas of their body. And also pattern injuries that could indicate, a loop mark in regards to if the belt was used or a phone charger or something to that effect. And accidents do happen. But if you are in doubt, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to, myself, and I could put my information in the chat, but also, like I said, the Florida Abuse Hotline. But definitely ask yourself these following questions. Where is the injury? How many injuries does the child have? What do those injuries look like? Is the injury consistent with the child's development capabilities, and could bias be affecting your assessment of the injuries? So supporting families in need of resources and services. So why people contact the department: to report suspected abuse or neglect, seeking services, to which we, would definitely refer to all of you on the call, and then seeking any resources that may be local in the area. DCF does have Hope Florida, which is amazing. A client does not need a open child abuse investigation in order to refer to Hope Florida. Anybody can call Hope Florida. They will receive a care coordinator, and it helps that client to identify goals and any barriers to getting to the goals that they need, local referrals to community-based partners, and one-on-one support to develop a plan to achieve economic self-sufficiency. So Hope Florida is an amazing resource. And like I said, they do not need an open child abuse investigation in order to, link up with Hope Florida. So ways that you can support families is, establish trust and rapport, provide information, offer guidance and referrals, collaborate with other professionals, advocate for the family, offer emotional support, monitor progress and follow up, and embrace cultural humility. So responding to suspicions of child abuse and neglect is, definitely calling the hotline. You guys, yep. And just take a moment to slow down before, making any further actions. Always analyze what information suggests there's a reason to believe that the child is being maltreated. Understand, have you communicated to better understand the circumstances that suggest a child has been maltreated? Self-reflect and ask yourself questions to check your bias, and extend support and report, offer support in all cases, and report when you have reasonable suspicions of child abuse or neglect. So reporting suspicions of child abuse and neglect. So there's a couple different ways to report these suspicions. You can call the 1-800-96-ABUSE hotline. You can also do it online as well as by fax. So there is a few different options for you. And then also for the deaf and hard of hearing, there's also TDD telecommunications that can be used as well. So there's definitely different options. This is what the web portal looks like. The reporting portal looks like when you do it online, and it'll go through a series of questions. And definitely, from a DCF standpoint, we really like to have as much information as you can provide. And definitely those participants' names, date of birth, everything like that. The most information you can provide to us is better. And it's also better for us to get an assessment up front before even going out to make contact with the family. If we have like demographic information and stuff, we're able to look in all our databases to see about any prior history, any significant criminal history, so that we need to be aware of. So any and all information that you guys have, please provide that when reporting to the hotline. Definitely when you report the allegations that you guys are reporting, Josie has a belt mark on her leg, and Josie indicated that the mother, hit her with the belt as a form of discipline. So definitely what the allegation is. A means to locate. This is super, super important. We get a lot of cases that, sometimes we'll get them from, St. John's County School. I'm just going to use you guys as an example. We would maybe get them from, a school employee, and the only and we get it like at 3:30 when school's over, and the only location is school. So really having that home address really helps us, because we may not be waiting till the next day to go see this child at school. It may need an immediate response from us, and so we have to get right out there. So definitely the means to locate is super important. Like I said, the names of the participants and their demographics, and then any sources. If there's anybody else that this child may have disclosed to or witnessed the incident, or has had any contact with the child, or even the parents, the sources is very beneficial to us as well. So definitely provide the hotline with that information. And just remember, you play a crucial role in supporting the families in need of resources. Before making a report, remember to apply critical thinking skills and via the pause tool that I just went over. The role of the mandated reporter is to report suspicion, not to prove abuse or neglect definitively. So that is the mandatory, report presentation. And kind of to tie it back to the scenario, with us in child investigations, I think, with the scenario, it says that, there's suspected abuse in the home. We see a lot of times that, Josie seems to have some behavioral problems, and there may be some, mom wants to get her into residential. It's kind of, what is that suspected abuse in the home, and does it rise to our level of removing Josie from that home? And some people, may understand that and may not understand that. And in regards to when it comes to residential, we see a lot of families and clients that think that, if they don't pick their child up from a Baker Act, we're going to automatically be able to bring that child into custody and put that child in residential. And that is not the case at all. So by any way, shape, or form, it can take months for a child to be recommended for residential. So they would have to get a suitability assessment and everything now as a dependency kid. So I think there's some misconceptions along the way where some parents believe that if they fail to pick up their child from a Baker Act or DJJ, that we're automatically going to put that kid in residential treatment and the child's going to get the appropriate services that they need. So, that's definitely something that is just not the case. So it really just kind of depends on what that abuse is, and I really, about the bias, we have to look at, and as you guys know, we work with families that don't live how we might live, or parent how we might parent. And so we just have to really be mindful of, does it rise to that level and kind of take the bias out or opinions out? And does it meet that statutory limit of, abuse or neglect? So, but with us, we are able to make referrals to you guys as well. We do what's called integrated practice teams. So if we do get, let's say Josie comes across our desk for the suspected abuse, mom is trying to get her the appropriate services. There are already service providers in the home. Let's say CAT team's already in there, stuff like that. Then we're able to do an IPT with all these providers to really make sure we have the appropriate services to maintain that child in the home, because that is definitely the ultimate goal, is to remain the child in the home. So we are able to do those practice team staffings just to make sure the right services are in there. And so, but definitely if you guys ever have questions, do you think this rises to the level? I will never tell you to not report to the hotline, because you guys are mandated reporters. If you suspect it, definitely let, us in investigations make that determination if it rises to the level of a child needing to be removed or judicial action. So, but never hesitate to reach out to me if there's ever any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lindsay. We have just a couple of minutes. Would you mind just kind of explaining quickly, once somebody makes a call, what the process is following that? Because many of these people on the phone, like, they're going to have to explain it to the families. So explain just that little piece of it, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So all our calls are filtered through Tallahassee to the Florida Abuse Hotline. And a hotline counselor actually makes the determination if it rises to the level of an investigation. So there is a high percentage of cases that, do get screened out at the hotline level that never actually get brought down to us. So definitely make sure when you're making a report, it gives you the option, if you want to be notified if your case is, screened in or not. Always check that, because I get calls all the time like, hey, I made a report, I haven't heard from somebody, and I'll go and check in our system, and that report was actually screened out and never brought down to us. So, once a case is received by the hotline, and if they do decide to screen it in, it gets sent down to our county. We have either 24 hours to go out and find the child, or we have an immediate response. An immediate response means 4 hours. So the hotline counselor determines, does it meet the criteria for a 24-hour response or an immediate response? An immediate response would be, one where, let's say there's concerns that the father in the home is sexually molesting the child and the father remains in the home with the child. That would be an immediate response. Most likely that would come down as an immediate response. A 24-hour response would most likely be, there's concerns that mom and dad may be smoking marijuana in the home, and at times the children come to school dirty. That most likely would be a 24-hour response. So, if it is an immediate response, like I said, we are on 24/7. From 5 o'clock till 8 a.m., we only take immediate cases. We don't take 24-hour cases. We don't start assigning the 24-hour cases until 8 a.m. the next day. But we get that case, we read the allegations, we search all our databases, we call the reporter. That is really the investigators' first thing they should be doing, is calling the reporter to kind of gain any other information. And then our first thing is to go out and find our victim and talk to our victim. So, and then really, we tend to have a protocol. We like to interview the victims first, then the children in the home second, then the non-offending parent, and then the alleged perpetrator of the abuse that was called in. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but that's definitely our goal that we try to, strive for. Did I answer your question? Sorry.
Perfect. No, it's perfect. And if anybody has follow-up questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. I see there's a couple questions in the chat, one for Dusty about housing, and then just one about reporting online or phone call. So if you could just put that into the chat, that would be great.
Yes, we don't do anything with housing.
No, that was for Dusty. That was for
Dusty.
Oh,
that was for Dusty. Oh, I thought Dusty was asking me. I was like, oh, no, sorry.
No, that was a question for Dusty. So just as presenters, after you've finished, if you can check into the chat to see if there are questions for you. Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was great. And if you guys have follow-up questions, please put them into the chat for Lindsay while she's here, because she has to jump off at some point. Great job.